Parallel to the above three religions, Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, these three religions believe that reincarnation is a reality. There are many people in Europe and India who remember their past lives. Science is still researching this subject but has not reached any conclusion. Many accounts of past lives have been published in newspapers and magazines. Many books have been written, and many films have been made on the subject. Famous philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Pythagoras also believed in reincarnation. Almost all ancient civilizations of the world also believed in reincarnation. Hinduism believes in reincarnation. This means that the soul leaves its old body and takes on a new one, going through the continuous cycle of birth and death. Every soul, as described in the Gita, attains salvation. Reincarnation is recognized in the Vedas. The phenomenon of reincarnation is mentioned extensively in the Upanishads. According to yoga philosophy, ignorance, etc., are the root of suffering, but their results are birth, life, and enjoyment. According to the Samkhya philosophy, ath trivida dukhyanta nivrittikyanta purusartha, the soul is attached to the body, senses, and matter because of rebirth. The Nyaya philosophy says that birth, life, and death are the states of the soul. It experiences them according to its past karma and is reborn to experience the results of new karma. The greatest knowledge about life and death is contained in the Gita, which is the voice of Lord Krishna. Therefore, in Hinduism, life, death, and rebirth are considered a cycle. This is because, while preaching the Gita to disillusion Arjuna, Lord Krishna says that, "O Arjuna, there is no time when you were not there, or I was not there, and there will be no time when you are not there. I will not be there. You and I have had many births. I have all the knowledge of my past lives, but you do not remember the knowledge of your past lives. You are Purusha, and I am Narayana. Therefore, O Arjuna, do not get entangled in the attachment of life and death. Just as a person changes clothes, so too does the soul leave one body and enter another, that is, assume a new body." Some stories that establish the point of rebirth, from a religious perspective, are also found in Puranas and religious books. There is a story mentioned in the Mahabharata that Arjuna was overcome with grief after the death of Abhimanyu. Seeing Arjuna's bad condition, Lord Krishna reached heaven with Arjuna. When Arjuna and Abhimanyu met in heaven, Arjuna became emotional and called Abhimanyu his son. Seeing Arjuna's condition, Abhimanyu said, "You became my father in one birth and are thus worried about my death, whereas I have been your father in many lives, but I was not so worried about your death." So he returned to earth. Hearing such words from Abhimanyu, Arjuna was disillusioned and gained the knowledge of reincarnation. Another story of reincarnation is found in the Mahabharata, which is related to the grandfather Bhishma. When Bhishma, lying on the ground injured by Arjuna's arrow, asks Krishna why he is lying on a bed of arrows today, what is the result of his actions? "As far as I remember in my 7 births, I have not done any work for which I have to suffer while lying on a bed of arrows." In response to Bhishma's question, Sri Krishna said, "I do not remember your 8th birth. In that birth you threw a snake at the thorn of a tree. You made the snake's entire body grow thorns, and because of that sin, today you have received a bed of arrows." Now let's find out how reincarnation occurs according to religion, and on what basis a person gets a new life. Vedanta philosophy has much to say about life and death in order to unravel the mystery of rebirth and past lives. Vedanta, while trying to unravel the mystery of rebirth and the cycle of life and death, leads to the philosophy of the Gita, and says that life, death, and rebirth are the results of the actions of the soul. A person's rebirth depends on the accumulated karma, desires, enjoyments, and lusts of his previous birth. As the soul desires, lusts, and pleasures, it gets a new body, surroundings, and everything else. There are many stories in the Puranas, which say that at the time of death, according to the wishes and feelings of the person, he gets a new life. There is a story of an Indian king who was so enamored with a deer calf that he was lost in his thoughts at the end of his life. As a result, despite being a virtuous soul, he was reborn as a deer in his next life. There has been a lot of research on reincarnation And research is coming out every now and then that shows that many things in this life are influenced by previous lives. Dr. Narottam Puri of Advaita Ashram, Mumbai says, "Rebirth acts as a bridge between the body and the soul. Man creates karmic rituals. If he stops creating or starts erasing the previous rituals, he will lose his existence. The mind acts as a bridge between the body and the soul. It creates the rituals of action. If it stops creating or starts erasing the previous rituals, it will cease to exist. Then there will be no role for emotional feelings in human life because emotional feelings also originate in the mind. This law of action was earlier limited to classical grounds. Now this law is being tested on scientific grounds as well. Two studies are considered important in the study of the existence of life after death. One of them was conducted by Dr. Ian Stevenson, a scientist at the University of Virginia in the United States. After 40 years of research on the subject, a report called Reincarnation and Biology was produced. The second study was conducted under the guidance of Dr. Satwant Passaria while working as a clinical psychologist at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neuroscience in Bangalore. Passaria also wrote a paper titled Claims of Reincarnation, Empirical State of Cases. In India, it mentions 500 reincarnation cases that have occurred in India. In addition, another report has been published stating that there are currently about 3,500 such reincarnation cases in the world. However, Dr. Narottam Puri of Advaita Ashram, Mumbai, has said in one of his studies that the role of karma works in this or the next life. As the saying goes, a person becomes industrious or lazy because of accumulated or active karma. Situations like standing, withering, diminishing, or flying away come only because of the disturbance of the mind. The mind is also the center of reformation. He said that before treating serious diseases, the mind should also be examined. Sometimes, diseases also come according to past karma. According to Sanatan Shastra, every living being has a soul. The soul is one of the 33 gods. In Sanskrit, the word dev means power. According to Sanatan Shastra, there are 33 types of gods or power, and according to science, there are many other powers, including the main 10 types of power. Sanatan Shastra calls the power present in the living being the soul, and chemistry calls the soul a chemical power. There is a principle in science called the conservation of energy. That principle is, there is no creation or destruction of energy, i.e., no one can create or destroy energy anymore. Energy can only be transformed into one or more forms. The amount of energy that was there at the beginning of the universe is still there. That is, even after 20 million years since the beginning of the universe, the total amount of energy has not decreased or increased by 1 point. But science says that it is not possible to create energy in a new way. Therefore, according to science, the energy in the world will not increase or decrease by 1 point. The principle of conservation of energy of science is becoming contradictory to the otherworldly theories of other religions. First of all, I said that every living being has a power called soul. There are not as many forests on Earth today as there were 200-500 years ago. There are not as many trees and animals in these forests now, and there are not as many fish in the rivers and oceans as there were before. On one hand, trees, animals, birds, fish are decreasing. On the other hand, people are increasing. Again, the people who are dying are also being born as some kind of living being. That is, on the one hand, some living being is dying. On the other hand, those living beings are being born. As a result, the total amount of energy is neither decreasing nor increasing. That is, the balance of energy is maintained.